Well, hello everybody. My name is Christian Fierro, and today I'm going to be presenting understanding label styles to create your own standards. So essentially,
Hey, Christian,
yes, sir.
you're sharing Civic Redeem, not our screen.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So we'll just
So we can share. There you go.
okay. All right. Everyone see this?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So today we're going to be going over understanding label styles to create your own standards. So whenever we look at AutoCAD and Civil 3D, we understand that they're the same exact product, right? Essentially, AutoCAD is AutoCAD. Civil 3D is an extension of your AutoCAD, right? So whenever we're looking over label styles specifically, things can get pretty complicated, right? And overwhelming to some users who's not maybe frequent, who's not really familiar with that space, right? So looking over label styles essentially is telling a story. Okay. Whenever we're doing construction documentation, we're telling a story of how we should essentially build something, right? We're conveying our message to the contractor, to the permitting agency, to internal design review, let's say for your engineer on record and so on. So our label styles is very important of how it extracts information to then conveys to the person that's reading your documents, right? So the agenda today, we're going to be going over object layers and blocks because label styles, believe it or not, again, if you're familiar with AutoCAD and blocks, you can kind of relate to label styles creation. Just because most complicated things within Civil 3D is extremely basic, right? But they make it really complicated to where it's like, oh, I gotta, you know what I mean? And we're going to be kind of simplifying the process. Okay. So if you understand object layers, let's say putting a block on a layer, you understand object layers. That's essentially all it is, as well as how blocks work and layer control, as well as using the by layer and by block function. Secondly, we'll be going over label style defaults and feature settings. So anyone who is used to Civil 3D, if you navigate to your tool space into your settings tab, right click on any of those features there. And what you'll see is edit label style defaults or feature settings. Okay. So yes, sir.
Excuse me, I'm talking what? Can you have Civil 3D open while you?
If you would like to, absolutely.
I'm looking for it here.
Oh yeah, I'll go through all that. I'm just kind of giving a high level view of what I'll be kind of going over. So I'll kind of go over that within Civil 3D so we can kind of get familiar with that space and how it relates to creating label styles, right? Second, and then third is parents and children. And I'll talk about whenever you create a specific style or a label style, we can build a hierarchy of organizational to it. Okay. So think of a folder structure, right? That's pretty common across the board. So whenever you have a folder structure, let's say desktop, you have subfolders that organize your data, right? Think of the exact same thing, but with label styles. We're going to have a origin of everything, and then anything relative to that origin is kind of defined based on your use, right? Now, fourth is going to be creating, testing, and the practical approach with using label styles. Whenever we're doing the planning phase and really going over how to accomplish this or what my end goal would look like, we're going to be using simple M-text, lines, leaders. That's it. That's how we're going to envision this. Okay. Now, going over here, before we go into this demo here, things to think about, right? What we want to pretty much see is, so going into here, okay. Apologies. So things to think about is whenever we're building our label styles, they need to be easily identifiable, right? Meaning if you as a first-time user, either senior user, medium, does not matter, and you go inside of using a label and you're like, I have no idea what this is going to give me, right? That's a problem. Because then now you're kind of just clicking random things and see what works. You know what I'm saying? So then you have to ask somebody, which then takes time and kind of, messes up your entire workflow. So this is what we're going to be catching here is easily identifiable. Secondly is aesthetically pleasing. Okay. So think of, I guess, has anyone ever seen like maybe a texting, right? Like you're texting somebody and then they're kind of having wrong letters in the wrong places and it just looks all jacked up. And you're like, I really don't want to go through and read all this. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a headache, or if someone messaged you an entire paragraph in all caps, right? Can you differentiate between something important and what's not important? Probably not. So that's how we're going to be intentional with our structuring. Third is structure itself, is how all of our labels are being stored in our tool space. Again, this is going back to the folders and the subfolders kind of idea there. And then general formatting of the object itself, meaning I want text here, I want a line here. So I'm saying like, that's what we're going to be formatting here and how we want to visually see it in a very easy way to accomplish that with using mtext, lines, and arrows to get our idea across. Now we're going to look at less noisy. This is going to be in the same aspect of aesthetically pleasing. So think of this, defining subjective, so defining subjective as less noisy text that shouts at you. Seeing this, for example, right? You reading this, you're kind of like, okay, chill out, dude, right? So whenever we're going about creating construction documents, right? If everyone has created those already, everything is all caps, right? I see caps everything is always uppercase, right? It's fine. But whenever I'm inside of my tool space, or in my AutoCAD, I kind of just want to chill out. I don't want my layers screaming at me all the time, right? I don't want my label styles screaming at me, my folders screaming at me. You know what I'm saying? That you can scream at me on the construction documents all you want to, but in my own design space, I kind of want that to be kind of relaxed. That's kind of what that means. Now, readability this is how it's being read by the user. So going back into the folder hierarchy, how everything is being stored isn't so much of how you put, I created this folder first and this one, then this one. It has different tabs saying name, date modified, right? You have different levels of organizing it from top to bottom. Now with inside of Civil 3D, for example, and creating these different label styles, they're not created in that time of creation. Everything is organized based on name. So that's why you can sometimes see like you put 01 and then 02, 03, and then it kind of has that, precedence of this, then this, then this, right? Within Civil 3D, everything is by either numbering. So if I do 1, 2, 3 on my name, that's how it's going to number it. Same thing with naming. If I name it A, it's going to be A, B, C. See what I'm saying? So we're going to kind of be intentional with the readability of this and where it is in relation to when we try to use it. Now, the last part and the most important part of this all, Civil 3D is a constant evolution of change. Hi. Are you here for the Awesome CAD user group? Yes, well, welcome. So for the last important part, whenever we're creating any sort of standardization, is when, not if, but when there's changes made with inside of Civil 3D, let's say 2026, okay? Something new could come up. How can we make our standards that we created today accommodate future changes? You know what I'm saying? Either that could be from an external factor of, hey, something new came out, let's try to roll this out, okay? Or, hey, we're changing something very simple of, we're having an internal standard change from this text font, which could be Arial to Simplex or whatever the case might be. Different text styles could be implemented that you want to use across the board. So how are we going to put these our internal standardization and rapidly change all of our styles accordingly based on, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? So all of these has to be has to really take into effect. Now, going over the UX design model, right? Has anyone heard of TikTok? It's pretty, everyone knows that, right? Well, the reason why it's very effective, right, is because they have some kick butt UX designers there. Twitter, Facebook, every sort of website that you can navigate seamlessly and have the best user experience on is created with a UX designer. Okay. That's kind of how we're kind of going to be going through these process here. So going over empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and testing. So this is kind of that process that you can use across the board, regardless of whatever you're really doing for standardizations. Now, going into what is UX design. So going into that first PowerPoint of things to think about, here's how we can blend this methodology into giving us a great result to where everything about it is intentionally built. Okay, because we're not just doing a bias here. You're not using this because I feel comfortable with it, right? We all kind of been through firms, and you ask, hey, why are we doing this? Oh, it's just the way we do things. Oh, well, why? Just because it looks nice. You know what I mean? So this is what we're kind of eliminating here. Intention above everything else. Because if it's intentional, that means you should be doing it. And if you can rationalize with something that's intentional, you're more opted into doing that, correct? Unless you're just kind of unless you feel okay with blindly following something because someone said, hey, this is the right thing to do. Why? So we're kind of answering those whys. First thing is understanding. I won't be going too much into here, but we can kind of just get like a high level view of it, is understanding what information needs to be told, right? What is the current user experience that everyone is currently going through? Like, how are they all using your current Civil 3D systems, and addressing it or getting any feedback from anyone, either from a survey, either they write you a note, an email, Teams message, and you kind of compile everything where you can say, okay, here's all the user pain points that I'm getting from people inside of my company. So knowing this, I thought this was the best thing in the world because I made it, right? But everyone's telling me they don't like this. Now, once you compile all of these entities, what you can then find is common pain points from everyone else, right? So then you'll start seeing, hey, text is too big. I always have to do this, or this keeps, this isn't working based on this, whatever. So then we can kind of see levels of priority of this needs to be addressed first. Either this could be an internal problem, this could be an error to where you need to accommodate future trainings for someone, right? So that's something that we all kind of need to understand here. Secondly is analyze. Okay, after we receive all this feedback, okay, now what are we doing with the information? Okay, we're pretty much going through the motions and getting real-time use for discussions. So we're opening your CAD model, going through the entire process. And then from there, they're telling you, hey, okay, I see what you're saying. This is how we can remedy that. Then that's kind of a on-the-spot training. Or, you know what, that's pretty jacked up. Yeah, we should probably fix that. You know what I mean? So we're kind of going through the motions right now. Third is, okay, now we understand the issue. We've seen the issue in practice. Now let's think of solutions. Any ideas whatsoever. Now in the ideate phase is throwing ideas out there, all solutions welcome. This is about building that text, building that lines, and building those simplified formatting, just to kind of say, okay, what is the overall solution that we want to go about here? Now validate is, okay, now we have that. Now we're going to be firsthand testing out, ruling what cannot work in our design process. So let's say if we start identifying limitations that we're currently building a label style for. Let's say if we're designing a pressurized system, okay, and we use a surface profile or a polyline or whatever the case might be within a profile, right? Well, if you're not using pressure networks, for example, you could be limiting yourself based on the information that you want to convey, right? As well as losing potential dynamic possibilities, you know what I'm saying? Whenever you're using different features of Civil 3D. So understanding that, like, okay, I want to convey this. Well, I can't convey it with here. I have to constantly hard input or manual input these entries. That's kind of not very effective. So whenever we're going through the validate stage, we're seeing, okay, here's what I want. Is it possible? That's what that means. Now iterate, as soon as we solve or go through that validation phase, then we're going to iterate this entire process. Okay. So going through this, let's say we have 10, 20 great ideas through the ideate. Okay. Now through the validation phase, now we have 5 great ideas. So you see how we're kind of reducing these based on each phase that we go through. Now, once we iterate that, then we can then start mock testing or prototyping these solutions. Okay. Now, once we go through that, we might reduce it down to 2 great ideas. So now we're kind of reducing our scope of work, right? Now, once we have that, cool. Now let's go into execution and implementation. So now here is your quote unquote, let's say a local deployment setting. Hey, we rolled out all these great new standards or whatever. Here's a brand new template. Here's your brand new standards. Start using it for future projects, right? This is kind of where we tie everything together. Now, does everyone have any questions on that?
You said pressure systems, do you need water, wastewater, hydraulics, stuff like that?
Yeah, so usually like let's say potable water lines, reclaimed water lines, irrigation lines. When you talk about sanitary sewer, let's say force mains, like your pressurized systems. So you can also mesh between pipe networks and pressure networks with the new Civil 30 2025 release. So you can mix both networks in one network together. All right. Now let's go through building this here. So I'll just give a
Still sharing PowerPoint?
on here.
No, on Zoom.
On Zoom. Okay. Let's go through here.
I think you want to just share your screen.
This one. Okay. All right, perfect. So going through the agenda here, we have object layers and blocks and label style defaults and feature settings. So the very first thing we're going to navigate to is our tool space. All right. So with inside of Civil 3D, we have an awesome palette called the tool space, and navigating through the settings here, whenever we're looking at creating our default formatting of any sort of creating default formatting for our label styles, we want to go to the very top here and then navigate to edit label style defaults, right? So going through here, this is pretty much your original hierarchy, and whatever changes we make inside of here, this is essentially like, this is the ruling of my drawing settings, okay? Now, coming into here, if we have a standard text style, okay? And let's say the one that I would like to use is my standard, okay? Now, once I go through here, every brand new style that's created will then accommodate my value of my standard one, instead of that default value of standard, which we all kind of, see inside of our drawings. Now, going through here, there's some default settings that we can already input into here, right? Let's say going into here, we have a components. My standard text height for most of my label styles is going to be 0.08, right? That could be a bias for me, but for this example, it's going to be 0.08. But again, depending on your company standards here, they can be 0.1, 0.12, however that is internally discussed. So in here, I'm setting any brand new style that's label style that's created will be used as 0.08. Now, going through text color, right? I'll explain this throughout the block setting of how you guys can further use this text color by layer to your benefit, okay? But we'll just leave it as by layer for now. Same thing for by block and by layer. Is anyone not seen by block or by layer? Like, does everyone kind of at least seen that one time or so? So we're going to go not too deep into it, but what happens if something is by layer, by block in 4 different scenarios. Now going into the leader style. Okay, well, whenever we draw a multi-leader, how does that typically look like? Because remember, we're not drawing multi-leaders here. We're drawing label styles. Okay, and now my default arrowhead size, let's say I would like this to be 0.1 or 0.12, whatever the case may be. You know, if you guys ever see, let's say, a lot of other drawings, they could have different ranges of sizing. Okay, now if someone has OCD, they could kind of, well, hey, this is really bugging me, right? This all needs to be uniform, consistent, and so on. So this is where we're breeding uniformity and consistency along all of our label styles. And then going into drag state components, this is more of a case-by-case basis on, you know, how your structure of your label style needs to be built. Okay, this is more of a case-by-case, so we'll default this to a stacked text, which will then create a multi-leader fashion. And then we'll just make sure that we'll have our text height here set to 0.08. And then we'll have our, let's say, a background mask. You know, if you guys ever created a label style or a multi-leader and you constantly have to apply a background mask to it, right? It gets kind of annoying, like repeat it after time, right? So here we can just stop all that and just come here and then say, hey, on, turn on. I don't want to, I'll rather like tell you to not turn on is a bit easier instead of modifying every single label style that I have to tell it to turn on or off. So now going in through here, we can now further lock we're essentially creating this. We're creating a standardization baseline for the end user, okay? Now for here, I could say, hey, every single one of these label styles needs to have my style or my standard text style. So then I'm gonna lock it. So that means it does not matter what feature we're looking at, you cannot modify this. That's what that pretty much says. You're kind of forcing, hey, you can change this, but you can't change that. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what we're doing here. Okay, now that's for the high level hierarchy. Now, once we go into different features, right? Once we navigate to general, point, surface, and so on, for this example, we're going to be using pipe networks. I didn't make a realistic design, so I just kind of put something quickly just so we can see functionality for it. So navigating down to our pipe network, right click, and then do you see the edit feature settings, right? Where it is in relation to the label or into the profile or in the plan view, this is where we change our defaults. This is huge, huge, because the default style for anything and label style is standard. So whenever you create an object, what do you guys have to do? Change it from one to the other every single time. So going through this here, we can really lock in. When you do this, you will start with this, but you can always change it, right? So you're changing less in hopes to save a bit more time. So going down into here, we have default profile label placements. This is essentially saying whenever I create a label, a pipe network structure label, for example, this is where it will go. So this is what we're pretty much defining in our feature settings. And if you guys navigate throughout here, you guys can kind of see, oh, okay, here you go. You see this? Pipe style default standard by layer, standard, and so on. So this is where we can create our default styles and label styles. Now going into our pipe and structures, those require 2 separate label styles, right? A pipe label is not a structure label and vice versa. So going into here, looking under, you see this? Feature settings again. This is relative to only your pipes. And here, this is relative to only your label style defaults. So everyone's seen how we created that baseline of here? We created all of our features will have this, right? Now, let's say if we go into pipe or into our pipes, into our edit label style defaults. Everyone see this here? My standard. Now, what I can do is I would say, hey, I want a specific text style for all of my pipes. I don't know why, I just really need a different text style, okay? Just for my pipes. So my starting point is going to be here. I'm going to then do, let's say, GA or some other text style, right? Now going through here, any pipe label that I create will be created based off of that text style. Now I can choose to lock this here, right? And then force anyone who creates a label style to then use this defined text style here, okay? So we can kind of create like, you know, a very simple directory going through here. Now going into behavior, again, same thing as we did over here at the very top, but all this is specified to our pipes. Same thing for structure labels as well. So navigating through here, right? Same exact thing.
If we change here or the first one, it will work similarly.
Yeah, exactly. So, so they're very similar, but the very top one we did was for all of our settings, like everything is starting from there. Whenever we adjust these individual ones, we're isolating those defaults into these specific features. Does that make sense?
Specific drawings,
Say again?
this specific drawing.
Yes, in this specific drawing, not any other drawing. So if I'm building my drawing template here, which is a DWT, not a DWG, then let's say I can save it into here and then everyone can kind of use this later. All right, perfect. Now let's look at actually like starting out to build this, you know? So again, for the very first part is understanding. So whenever I understand something, I gotta know what information I'm using, what's the usability, maybe feedback and so on. Now, when I look at creating a structure label for, let's say, a wastewater manhole, there's specific information that I need to call out, right? For the yes, sir, go ahead. Oh, the lights? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a lot better?
Much better.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Now going through here, if you guys read your, again, either an internal CAD management thing of this is how we want our plans to have, that could be decided internally, or external factor, right, would be what the city requires. If you guys are operating in, if you're designing and submitting into different municipalities, right, they have different requirements, okay? So all these has to take an account for creating your label styles. You have to know what information to convey, right? So now going into this example, here's how I want to convey my message, okay? This again, if I go to my properties panel here, everyone see this? Layered 0, everything, it's completely easy to make. Anyone can make this. It's just a multi-liter. And I'm pretty much formatting right now. I'm having an idea. Okay, well, I want my name of my structure. I want a station and I want my description. And again, this is a manhole. This is a pipeline or your pipe. And this is a structure. Okay, so manhole, pipe, manhole. Structure, pipe, structure label. So going through here, I can then, you know, think about, okay, well, here I want to have a name defined here. I have my station defined here. I have a description of this item. So let's say name, a unique identifier, let's say a SSMH A1 for sanitary sewer manhole A1, that specific identifier for that structure. Then I want to put this on a specific station, right? Then a description, either 48-inch manhole or so on, right? And then I want to call out maybe the connected pipe description. So let's say 12-inch PVC and a invert flow. Is this going either in my structure or out of my structure, right? Direction relative to our UCS. So let's say it's coming in north, south, east, west, and so on, like general direction. Then we have invert elevation, right? Which is what elevation is that pipe coming in or out of our structure, right? All this is very important information to need, all of which can be picked up by the construction details. So now here, rim elevation, this is very important as well. Where exactly is it going to be at? You know what I mean? Like rim wise. Now we have northing and easting, right? Very important information to show as well. Now, again, all this here, if I'm like, you know what, we don't need this at all. We can easily just delete it, right? See that? Easy. This is just a quick mock-up, right? So we have that flexibility of using something very familiar, which is multi-leaders in text, to create our changes. Now going into here, now for my pipe label, I would like to show a description of the pipe, meaning like, what is this pipe? You know what I mean? Is it maybe like what the material is? You know, is there certain types of additional callouts that I want to associate with this pipe? If that makes sense. And then I want this to give me the slope of the pipe. Let's say 2%, 1%, whatever the case might be. Is it going to tell me it's flat? This is important information that I personally need to know. Now, second or third is length. Now, whenever we're looking at length, we can then define, okay, well, we have length. Do we want 2D length, which is going to give me my horizontal geometry? Do we want 3D length, which takes into account of, you know, where it is vertically? Because if you have a line like this is 2 feet. But if you have a line like this with that 2 feet, then it's going to be maybe like 3 feet, right? So that's what we're kind of trying to understand here. Okay, now that's great. So once I go into here, I can then look at, okay, well, this is how I actually want it to look like in my label style. Here, SSMH A1, again, multi-leader, circle, polyline, nothing fancy here, okay? Now going into here, we have SSMH A1, that's the name. Here's my station in this format. Here's a description, right? Here's my description, my connected pipe description, invert flow, and my description here, right? And this is the elevation example that would be here. And then here would be my rim elevation. Again, all I'm putting here is what I want it to look like. All right. Now, after this is my northing and easting. I want it to, let's say, be in 9 digits of precision, right? Now, same thing for my pipe label, 12-inch RCP, reinforced concrete pipe, 100 feet at 1%, okay? So we're kind of starting here, and then we're ending here. Now, going into over here, right? We could then look at our structure label. Now, whenever we start building our profile, this will be pretty important, okay? So we'll touch over this after we kind of go over here. So this is our planning portion, okay? Now we're going to take the exact same information, but we're going to block it. That's it. How much can you talk about blocks? Obviously quite a bit, right? If I'm talking about this here. So we have color and layer control. This is huge, okay? Now, the reason why this is huge is whenever you're looking at different workflow integration of your Civil 3D capabilities, you have data shortcutting, right? You have XREF. You also have the use of creating a localized design and labeling. So meaning you can label an XREF, you can label a design ref or a data reference. You can also label something locally inside of the drawing as well. So all of these is pretty important of if you want to freeze something, turn off a layer, change a layer, right? Based on your construction drawings. Let's say if it's a site plan or it's something else specific and you need to change that object color or that object label or that style based on whatever you really want. This is how we're thinking of this. Now, if I look at this block reference, again, all these are block references here. All of this here was built on a by layer 0, and this one was built on by block 0. Okay. Now, whenever we look at here, you see, this is the exact same label. By layer, everything here is the exact same, right? Same thing for over here. But notice when I go into this one major change that's in here is this. Everyone see this? By block. by block, by block, by block, by block, everything, right? Now notice the functionality changes they are. If I apply, I'll just use these two as an example. If I apply these two on layer 0, right? Layer 0 is defined in my layer manager as color white, okay? So then whenever I change this to a different layer, check this out, right? The 0 layer helps me adopt my object to this sign or this object's layer. So if I go to here, text label, it changes that. But let's say if I want it on text label, but I just want to physically, let's say this block reference here, I want to just change this color, but I don't want to change any of the layers into it, right? But I also don't want to change the layer color. I just want to change the object color. That's it. So how this is relative whenever you're doing as-built drawings, okay? Or let's say if you're doing a revision for different construction documents and you need this specific label to be red. That's a huge one. Instead of creating another label and exploding it or doing these short-term remedies, we could then just restructure our label style accordingly to accommodate these changes. So if I click on here and here, check what happens. See that? Remember, I'm selecting on both of these here, right? Now, this is what the by block functionality gives us, but it's still relative to the layer as well, right? So that's something pretty cool. Same thing. Now, this is the same label, so I don't have to showcase that. Now, this is only using 2 separate layers. So this is your object layer, right? And here and inside of here is the source layer. Now, if we navigate back to our tool space, now where is these object layers? Like, where is that verbiage coming from? All in here. Drawing settings into object layers. See that? Now, whenever I create an alignment, any sort of feature on here, again, the list is very long, okay? If I create my beloved pipe network, you know what I mean? Here's my pipe label. It will come as a default of layer 0, which, well, then I have to do. I probably then have to change it to not 0, you know what I mean? Putting objects on layer 0 is a typical, like, hey, you don't want to do that in AutoCAD, right? But when you build blocks, that's best practice. So knowing when to use layer 0 can really benefit your overall standardization. Does that make sense? Because remember, everything is intentional. Like, we're doing this for a reason. So coming into here, we could then just change, let's say, pipe labeling to, let's say text label, right? So whenever I create a label, it will automatically create that layer for us. Or not create the layer, but it will associate that block, right, onto that text label. Now navigating to down here. Now, this build is layer 0 in the block, right, with the object as text label. Now we're going to do something different here. Now we're going to do something of inside of this block, we're putting this to a text layer, right? So now we're going to bleed 2 different layers onto an object. The inside of an object will be text. The outside will be text label. But you see how it, with having this here defined under by block, I can have 2 different layers and I can still change this accordingly, right? But here, I can still come here and change this. So I can override my block color as well as assigning it to a different layer. Now over here is a little bit different. You see this? My text label color is magenta, right? But then my text layer is green. You see that? So it does not matter what I put this on, it's going to be green irregardless. Same thing for here. It's not going to change. No matter how much I really wanted to. So I'm just probably gonna explode it at this point, right? It's always the best workaround. So do you see here? We can kind of mix these two. Now, where's the benefit of using an embedded layer inside of your object? Okay, I can say this for example. Let's say if our object for this specific label, this is more applicable to styles of object styles, but you can use the same thought process with any label styles. Because remember, everything is created by essentially a block. So if I come into here and go to my text label, if I wanted to freeze a layer, I could freeze text and this entire object goes away, right? So if I freeze text, this object goes away. But if I freeze text label, this object goes away as well, right? So this is more of a workflow integration of, you know, what color or what colors am I constantly changing, either forcing them to a different color to where I have to create this manual override, or two, am I changing my layer colors quite a bit, okay? That's another thought process through this. And third, am I freezing any of these different type of objects? You know what I mean? So you guys can, again, create these very unique workflows just on how you're building your styles and label styles. Again, they work the exact same way. Awesome. Now going back into here, I built a pipe network. We have an alignment, and then we have, check this here, a structure label, right? That's pretty cool. It's not a multi-leader anymore. Now we're actually getting into Civil 3D, right? So now let's look at formatting, okay? Now, again, this is my subjective approach. This is how I like to go about something. But again, if you guys find another intentional way of going about something, then that's the best way to go about it, right? Standards is always subjective. So going into here to my structure labels, this is how I organized my label styles. I have plan standard. Okay, what this means, anything plan related in my plan view, right? My styles is going to be located here. Anything profile related is going to be located here. See that? So if I go to here and label my structure profile, I'm going to be in this category, right? If I'm labeling anything plan wise, I'm going to be in this one. Okay. And inside of my structure feature settings, I could then, oh, not here, in my pipe network feature settings, I can go into here and then define, you see this here, my default profile label placements, and I can do my my default styles. Everyone see this? Structure, or let's say a structure pipe plan label, right? I can put this to a plan and so on. So I can essentially put in my profile labels, lock it into a specific label style, as well as my plan labels as well. Now going into here, how I structured this is I have, do you remember in the very beginning, I talked about whenever we look at drag state, you either have stack text and you have as composed, okay? So remember, the information is going to be the exact same, but how it's being presented, that could be different, right? So that's what drag state changes are. I'm going to put anything as composed into here, and anything stack text drag composed is going to be located in here, okay? Now, how I created these was, notice I have these naming here. So everyone remember the readability and that additional formatting that we were looking at? So looking at here, we have name, description, name, station, description. You see what I'm saying? How everything's flowing? Let's say I create a name after I created this one here, but it still comes up in this order every time, okay? So how this is being conveyed to you, right? We have a simple break Everyone see that little line? I love that line. I don't know why I like it. I just like to have a space in that line, space, and then I have my define other category. So here I have my name, line, description, and you see how it's kind of a little bit easier on the eyes comparatively to if I did this. Let's say if I went into here, and then let's say I had name and description, right? Now everyone see the different presentation that looks like? It's just there. It's like, yeah, we got you. You're right there, right? But whenever we're looking at it, there's no delineation between this letter and this letter. So now think of if you have 20 label styles in here or other styles, and it's all named under this. This will get lost in that. So you're constantly having to find it, right? So we're trying to improve how we're navigating these. Okay. Now, after seeing that, now let's look at adding the label. So if I type in add label, and if I go under add labels here, you see feature. So a typical workflow that I always like to teach is AutoCAD Civil 3D talks to you very well. You know what I mean? And if you have an internal dialogue of what you want to accomplish, there's most likely a command that's built for that. Okay. So whenever I was learning Civil 3D or AutoCAD in general, I couldn't find the buttons for some reason. Like I just could not associate the button for some reason. So then I remembered a lot of commands. So whenever I wanted to go about something, I want to add a label. So guess what my command is? Add label, right? I want to add a label, and I want to add a label to my structure and my plan view. Well, structures under a pipe network. I want to label my pipe network structure, right? See that structure and my plan view. Okay. So here I have profile specific labels and I have plan specific labels. So you see kind of where my head process is going through this is I'm not just going to have 100 different styles to choose from because I'm probably going to choose the wrong one. You know what I mean? I'm in a hurry. Everyone's always in a hurry. So I'm just going to choose whatever it is and probably I'm going to end up exploiting it anyways. You know what I mean? That's a typical thing that you might see.
Yeah.
So going through here, I want to label again a pipe network structure in my plan view. Now I want to do a stack text, which will kind of give me that multi-leader effect. And then I want to have just my name and description. That's it. So I'll come here and then I click on my object. And then I can just drag this out. Right, all done. And you can see here, it automatically comes in as a structure label. Remember whenever I put that in my object layers, when I create a structure label, it comes in as this automatically. But now let's say if I change it to, text label, you see that? Something different. Well, let's say if I wanted to come here and change it to red, you see that? It's under text label, which is designed in the layer manager as magenta, but I'm forcing the object to be red. You see what I'm saying? So now I'm having a multifunctional use of this label style as practiced over here, right? Everybody see that?
Yeah.
So you see how it's all relatable? It's the same thing, right? So now going back into here, here's my pipe label, okay? Same exact thing too, exactly from here. I could then go to my add label and then go to my pipe network, single part plan, and then go to my pipe label. And you see this? I have plan and profile standard. So anything plan view or profile, I kind of bled both of them together. So if I go to here to plus, do I want to show the description of my pipe or do I want to show the description, slope, or length? Let's say I want to choose this one. I'll come into here, press add. Now I have exactly what I planned at over here, right? Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Same exact thing, but it's now it's over here. Okay. So that's like the very first part of navigating through this. Because the most difficult part about doing this is actually implementing it in label style component editor. So one workflow that I really like to do is under, let's say, our structure label styles, under plan, let's say under here, check how I built this out. I organized all of those entries based on components, right? So do you guys remember that very first one I made over here? We have, where's it at? We have my name, description, this here, rim elevation, northing and easting, and so on. Those sound like component names to me that I can use. It's pretty, it's all universal. So if I go to plan and standard, right? Now I created name, see, station, description, invert, in and out, rim, and northing and easting. So navigating through here, I then created all of this here. And if I cycle through here, you see how it populates different contents, right? Now, whenever I create it here, I could then create children. And remember, whenever we set our initial label style origin and we start creating the sub-entities, the benefit of that is if I chose to make any adjustments to anything down here in my children, everything will get overwritten. Okay. So if I go to my plan and standard here, and inside of my as composed, my drag state is as composed, my stack text is is under my drag state. Now when I create a new layer or a new object here, I'll create this as an example. You see how it tells me I'm creating a child off of my stack text? So this is how easy it is. Whenever I created this initially, I put in the legwork and I did it one time only. The only thing I'm doing right here is this. Let's say description. I'm just going to come here to the component name, and you see how I can't remove it because I kind of locked myself from changing this. So here, all I'm going to do is this. True. That's it. Done. It's all done. I don't have to go into here and put in different contents and so on, right? Now going into, let's say, rim elevation. True, that's it. It's all done now. So now I just created a brand new style, a label style, based on this hierarchy. Okay. Now when I go to my plan and standard here, and then if I chose to add on, so let's look at what's inside of this area here. Let's go to stack text. Let's go to our test here. And then let's go to our description. And then I'm going to override this. Or let's say if we have here, we have SDFA, just some random things I put in there. Now, if I go into here and if I go to edit, I could then go to description. And then I'll put in this one, right? Something kind of obvious there. So then whenever we get into here, check this out. These name and description here, right? All of this will get automatically updated. You see that? You see? This one, that's an obvious change. So any change that I made in here will trickle down into everything. Besides my test one, it won't, because I overridden it. I overridden that value. You see that? How that didn't update? So now if you start creating your overall hierarchy of your label styles, you guys can really standardize the entire delivery of this, okay? But then you also need to be very careful about overriding different entities within inside of your label style, because if you change it one time into here, everything will update for you, right? But if you choose to do a single 1 by 1 by 1 approach, you're going to probably miss something. Okay. And then from there, then what? You're kind of losing, you're kind of not using the full capabilities of, you know, having everything organized. Now let's look at, okay, well, I have a defined way of, let's say this is probably the longest component string. If I look under here to invert in and out, right? I mean, do you like if you're creating a new label style, let's say something in a brand new drawing or whatever, do you want to find this formatting and then copy it over and over and over again? I mean, I have to go through here, navigate through my properties and do this whole process. Okay. So, or check this out. I could just do this. Let's say I have nothing here. I go to my import text. So this is creating standardization for your label style text. So if I go to import text, remember my component name is inverts in and out. Check this out. I already defined this one time. So I don't ever have to find this ever again. I could then just go to my text here, import this text document, and then import it in automatically. Let's say if I was creating a one just for a station. Okay, see that? Imported that automatically. Because all this here, even though it specifies as a property, it's just text. You know what I mean? That's all it is. Just, again, very simple, right? Okay. Now, looking at here, our profile label for the structure. Now, this one is a little bit different, okay? So my thought process of going through here is, okay, we have a profile and my typical placement of a structure label, I would like for this to be on the top, okay? I don't want a multi-leader, right, for my plan view like this. I don't want to have this, you know, right? I don't want to have something like this. I want to have something a bit more fancy. You know what I mean? Something a bit more vertical. Like that looks cool to me. So what I'm going to do here is I want to then identify how am I going to build this? Well, first I have to go back to my planning stage and figure out what information do I want to convey first and what structure do I need to do. So in this one, all these label styles is doing this, creating M-text, okay? Creating lines and converting them into a block. It's pretty simple, right? So going into here, this is how I created this, is I drew a picture, right? Here's my structure. Here's my start line. Here's where it's ending, okay? And then I'm going to have 4 different components: name, station, description, and my inverts in and outs. And this is my justification of my M-text. Notice this is intentional, where I place these circles at. This name, justified, is bottom right, okay? This is justified on the bottom right of the station, top right. You see this? Bottom right of name is on the station, top right. The bottom right of station is on the end of my line, top right, and this is top right justification based on the bottom right of my description, right? Now let's go inside of our tool space. Or actually, we can do a quick shortcut and then go to edit label style and go into here. Now check this out. All I have, you see this? Component names, we've seen that, right? And then we just have a line. That's it. Just M-text in a line at this point. Now we're just choosing, okay, you see this? Name, top right of my station. Here, bottom right, attachment. You see this? So bottom right of my station, bottom right justification for my name, top right of my station. Now going down to my station, you see this? Using my end of my line and bottom right attachment. Everyone see that there? Now, the only difference is, well, how do I make it go up all the way, right? If you click on your label after you create it, you can come into here and create this reference, or we go to a graph view top. Now where this can automatically get positioned on there, right, is by specifying this inside of the label style component editor. Navigating to line 1, see this percent length, important, because we can make it dragged. We can drag it in and out. And here, structure dimension, okay? Now where I can automatically place it to the top is within my feature settings. So if I go into here, under my type network, edit feature settings, and then into my default profile label placement, you see that? Graph view top. On a typical basis. So that's how everything kind of works, works together, and how you can kind of build something intentional, and kind of going through that entire process of, here's some label styles that I would like to create, and so on. Now, depending on the feature within inside of your Civil 3D, you guys can kind of exercise the same planning methodology, right? And then see how each one is unique. Well, that concludes my presentation about label styles. Thank you guys for attending.
I'll have some.
Thank you.
good comments.
Okay, he has some questions?
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Question for you.
yes,
Do
sir.
you kind of develop a rep for your style? Do people kind of appreciate your clean style?
Yeah,
And they know your
think
work,
so.
when they look at it, they can tell your work from other people?
Yeah, I think so. I do some CAD management for some other companies. So
Thanks and killing.
yeah, thanks, man. Thank you. All right, let's see. Let's go into the questions. How do I get to them?
You can read off mine, so.
Okay.
you go.
Go ahead.
Tom was talking about, how, exploding should not be part of a typical workflow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, exploding should not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, just to reenact on that is, whenever I was saying, hey, people tend to explode, they kind of do that because it's easy to manipulate text and placement. Okay, you don't want to do that. Just reiterating that.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated seeing the difference between by block and by layer there. Do you usually set your source objects in your labels to by block?
Yeah.
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 Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because again, they all capture the layer that they're assigned on.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of if you want to either lock it or not, up to you.
Very well. If there are no more questions, we'll be concluding the meeting.
Awesome. Anybody have any questions left, or? Awesome.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you guys.
How long have you been doing it?